everyone. Are you ready for real, Camille? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone! Good morning sa inyong lahat. Of course, it's Thursday. And alam natin yan, pag Thursday, GK and I are here with you live on Facebook and on TikTok and on YouTube. So hello everyone! We are so excited for today. Kasi syempre, una muna sa lahat, GK, greet everyone first.
Hello! Ayan, it's Real Camille Thursday once again. We are on episode 5.
Wow!
Yes!
Is it 5 straight weeks that we've been doing this?
Tuloy-tuloy na
Uy,
siya.
grabe Hindi ko
And
naramdaman yun
You have been with us, no? Thank you po sa pagsama sa amin palagi and for growing din itong ating little community with Camille.
That's right. You know, sobrang happy kami ni GK because we've noticed that every week that we've been here with you guys, parang nag-gain din ng traction yung audience natin.
Yeah.
And parang people are actually excited for the next episode, kung ano yung mga bagong topics that we will be talking about,
Yeah.
discussions, at kung ano yung mga learnings natin from there. So, kaya eto na, wag na nating patagalin pa kasi for sure today is going to be very meaty at baka malamang kulang yung oras natin to discuss all these things. So let's
Yes.
start. Ang topic natin for today's episode is all about living a God-centered life.
Wow.
Lalo na if you want to integrate your faith in your marriage and parenting, andito lahat yon to guide you. So today, we have a very special guest to help us in today's discussion. She's an author, a counselor, a motivational speaker, a teacher, a wife, a mother to 6 wonderful children, a good friend of mine, and also an inspiration. Here to join us today is Joy Tan-Chi Mendoza!
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited.
Welcome
We're
to
so
Real
happy to have you
Camille.
here, Joy. Thank you for saying it kasi alam ko she just had a surgery last
Yeah.
Monday.
Pero okay na siya. I mean, it's healing.
Okay,
so,
good,
So, sorry na lang. I look like I have a club hand here.
I'm sure maging mas interesting pa rin naman, di ba? Ang
Yes.
magiging discussion natin, of course, in the past few episodes since we've started out, hindi po natin nakakaligtaan talagang i-mention, no, how Camille's life, of course, is about her faith, di ba? And building that with her family, with her husband, syempre. And alam din naman natin na si Miss Joy is coming in here today to share as well yung mga personal na experiences sa family life nila
Right.
with faith and healing.
Yes.
All right?
Yes, that's true.
diba?
Faith brings healing.
That's
Yes.
Alam mo,
So-
GK, I like that you said that because, you know, this show is called Real Camille. So now that, you know, I've actually thought about it, ano nga ba talaga yung mga totoo sa buhay ko? You know, a part of the things that, of course, you see me do, the things that I portray in front of the camera, I think these are the things that I really want to share about and the
Yes.
things that I also have been learning in my life na yun lang din yung pinapractice ko. And most of those things is, to be honest, I learned from her. I am a follower of her Facebook page.
Are we gonna cry already?
Too early.
Maaga pa.
Mamaya pa.
Too soon.
But really, I am inspired by her. And I showed her this. I actually, when I haven't met her yet, I was gonna send her an email as in stalker level. Like, hi, Miss Joy. And then parang I said something like, I've been a follower of la 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 of your page. And, you know, I'm so inspired by what you do. You know, you're homeschooling her kids, her marriage. And then, hindi ko na-send kasi nahiya ako.
Oh.
So, nung magkakilala na kami, I found it in my drafts
Oh, yeah.
sa email. So, I'm like, oh, I remember typing this and not having the courage to send it. But in God's perfect time, He allowed our path to cross in such a way that we can never forget. It was when we worked out in Baguio.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's another story.
That's another story, but
Your,
it was
your husband needs to explain that.
Yes, but it was really unforgettable. You know, parang every time we would see each other, that memory would instantly
It
pop.
sealed the deal.
Yes,
As you
that's
can
it.
see, no, inspiration talaga. This friendship also, kitang-kita natin on our screens today. And I'm so excited na nandito ako to be in the presence of these two wonderful women, syempre, that are
Oh,
ready to share their
GK.
stories of faith sa inyo. And to 850
What?
of our viewers
That's the
right
most
now.
views that we
Oo.
have.
Na
That's like,
at the
oh,
start,
thank you,
no? Yes,
guys.
so stay nyo po yan. And of course, don't hesitate then to
To
chime
share.
in. Oo, mag-share din kayo ng inyong mga stories. Of course, share this live to your friends and family as well. It's gonna be a great discussion today, I can tell.
Yes, and do type in your comment section kung may mga questions kayo. There are some things that you wanna, talk about also, or kung nakaka-relate kayo sa topics. just, chime in and type it in there. So let's start. Okay,
Yes.
with our first segment called Moments of Cam. So let's start by answering this actually medyo malalim to na tanong. Like it
Right
seems so
away.
simple, but I feel like very meaty din yung sagot. So what does a Christ-centered life look like? Especially for you, since your mom was a missionary and your dad is the founder of CCF and you have your ministries as well.
Yeah, thanks guys for leading off with a very easy question.
Ang dali-dali
I
ng
just want
tanong.
to say something really quickly. When I first met you, Camille, because this is all about the real you, and I just want to say, because you said some stuff about me, but I want to say that you were super sincere and just so down to earth. And sometimes you
thanks,
don't
Lord.
expect that of somebody who has such a high profile and status, but you really are a genuine person. So I'm really honored to be here because I feel very comfortable. So to your question, I would say that let's talk about first what it's not, because I think our tendency in this day and age is to have a me-centered or a self-centered life, or even a family-centered life. I mean, it's going to be Mother's Day, and the truth is, a lot of us as moms, we're so hyper-focused on, I want to have a happy family. I want everything to be perfect in my family. So a Christ-centered life would be like, Lord, my compass is how can I honor you and follow you, and how can I live a life that pleases you. And it's so important because when it's just about me and my happiness, then I can sometimes neglect my husband's happiness or even my children's. And if it's just about revolving around my own children, then what if someday something happens in the family? Then I'm going to be torn apart.
Yes.
Right. And so a Christ-centered life is all about getting my sense of worth and security and purpose and joy and peace from really following Christ and obeying Him. So we can talk more about that as we go along.
Yes.
But that would be the summary.
The summary
Yes,
of it.
yes.
And I'm sure, syempre, marami pang mga details
Yeah.
attached to those things that Joy
Parang
has
interested
mentioned,
nga ako to
diba?
know, is it an every moment thing? Or is there a routine to it?
Oh, we'll
No?
get to that.
Diba?
But that's a very good question, GT. Kasi minsan tinatanong ko rin yun sa sarili ko. Lalo na dati na parang, what does it actually mean? Or how do you actually apply it in real life? Because it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Na, this is how a Christ-centered life looks like, but how do you actually do it, diba?
Madali siyang i-describe
Yes.
pero mahirap din siyang gawin kasi.
Yung practical na ginagawa mo na, paano ba? So we'll get into all those details later.
Maybe we can start with one facet muna.
Yes.
Oo. Yes. And, before we get to those facets,
Yes.
a few comments. Ayan,
Sorry,
Happy
hindi ko
Mother's
na-mute.
Day ang ating mga viewers here on Facebook. And I think we have some questions as well. Advance Happy Mother's Day na rin pala
Aww.
para po sa inyo lahat. Okay? There you go.
Ayan,
Ooh,
let's
1.1K
Yeah.
on Facebook. That's amazing.
That's a lot. Oh, thank you guys. Nabibless ako because I feel like a lot of people are probably interested in this topic. People are, this is what I feel like a lot of people are searching also. Na they are curious. And siguro that's one of the reasons why we are here and Joy is here to simplify all these things and make it somehow reachable and attainable. Diba? Kasi parang nakaka-overwhelm siya isipin. So, to those of you who are here, sobra akong excited about what's to come. So, okay, in connection with our first prompt, what does a Christ-centered marriage looks like naman to you, Joy? So, kanina was a Christ-centered life, but this one is a Christ-centered
We're
marriage.
narrowing it down a little
Okay,
bit.
that's a great question. And I'm so glad that I actually had conflict with my husband yesterday so that I can explain this better.
Oh no.
It's about being real, right?
Yeah, it has to be by example.
In fact, when I had that conflict yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm going to go on this show with Camille and okay, Lord, we have to resolve it. So my husband and I had a discussion about, kasi we went outside and then nakita niya yung garden on the lower ground of our house. Hindi siya maayos. So he's like, so who's in charge of this ba talaga? Is it me? Am I supposed to take care of everything? And that comment, am I supposed
Triggered
to take
you.
It did trigger me. And I was upset about it because I was thinking, what is he insinuating? What is he implying? Diba? So we had to talk about it. And I realized if both of us don't have a Christ-centered marriage, where it's about coming together and resolving it in a way that honors God, not in a way where sino bang tama dito, which is our tendency, right? Like, are you right? Am I right? And I want to win the argument. But we were able to talk about it. We had a lengthy discussion. So having a Christ-centered marriage is all about, okay, let's try to understand each other and let's listen to where each other is coming from and let's humble ourselves. You know, because to be Christ-like, it really takes humility. And that's one of the hardest things in marriage is I need to humble myself so I can listen to my husband's perspective and what he meant. And he also attempts to humble himself to listen and understand me. And then we have to apologize and ask for forgiveness. And then we say, okay, how can we improve? And then we say, okay, we'll commit to be better. I'll commit to be a better homemaker. Kasi feeling ko kasi yung standard niya masyadong mataas. You know?
Kailangan plantita ka, Joy. Kailangan
Why did the flowers fall on my, he was saying, why the flowers, why are they choking my peanut grass? And, you know, we're going to have to pay again to pick some. And I was like, why is this an issue? but we were able to talk about it. And there was hurt there because it dug up some other things. But I think that the point is when you have a Christ-centered marriage, your desire is, Lord, we want to restore and fix our issues and obey you in the sense that if you tell me as a wife, I have to honor and respect my husband, then I should apply that. And for him, he needs to be loving and understanding towards me. And naintindihan niya naman kung saan ako nagagaling. You know, he listens. So that's an example in a practical way. And I'm sure you have your own version.
Yes. Okay, my version is that, first of all, is that I want to share that these are actually the practical advice that we are also practicing. And we've learned it from them as they share it with us. So recently, VJ and I also had conflict because, love, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna share this with him. If you're watching, he sold I have an arts and crafts machine na hindi ko ginagamit. Yes,
I think I know this, and I'm not gonna say that.
Yes. So I have that, and then I bought stuff for it, the materials, the accessories, but I haven't had the time to use it. Okay, but it's there. So ngayon, he goes, he probably sees it lying around. So he goes, I think you're not using this. I'm gonna sell it. He goes like that. Tapos ako parang, no, I'm gonna use it. I just need to find a place for it, you know, and a time to do it. Kasi it's not easy. Parang kulang yung 1 hour for that.
Yeah.
Like you have to have like a relaxed time to be able to tinker with it, create design, stuff like that. So, okay, to cut the story short, I was looking for it and I'm like, why is it not where I left it?
It sounds like the toaster thing.
Yes! Iba pa yung toaster. So, it's not there. And then the materials, everything, it's gone. So I'm like, baka he moved it to a different place kasi it's nakakalat. I don't know. So I asked him, where is my stuff? Yeah, my machine. And he goes, oh, that? I sold it. And I'm, what?
Happy Mother's Day!
What? So I was so hurt. Sobra talaga ako na-hurt kasi parang, why didn't you even tell me? Or why didn't you even ask me if it's okay? Or parang, oh, eto na ha, I'm about to close the deal. Are you sure that, is it okay if we let this go kasi you're not using it? Or something like that. Communication. Parang we failed to communicate in that matter. Oo. And I was so hurt. So ayoko siya kausapin. Nagtampo talaga ako and I barely make tampo with VJ. I barely act that way. So alam niya talaga na this is a big deal to her. So you know, while we were in the car, we were gonna meet my parents the next day. I apologized because we weren't able to resolve our conflict the same night. I had to sleep on it kasi hindi ko talaga parang, I also wanted to make him feel na don't do that again. Something like that. So he spoke to me. He goes, is this the right time to talk about it?
Oh, galing.
You know, I'm so blessed by him also because most of the time he initiates how we resolve things. So he goes, is this the best time to talk about it? And then I go, syempre, ang bigat pa ng heart ko. As in talagang ayaw niya. And then, you know, those are the moments that I feel like I have to surrender it to the Lord. You know, we are always reminded that we are not how we feel or kung ano yung nafe-feel natin ngayon doesn't really have to dictate what our next actions should be. So, my feelings were really against resolving it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm still upset. I'm still tampo. But, you know, my mind was telling me that, you know, Cams, these are the moments wherein you really have to fight it. Kasi this is where the devil is attacking you. This is where Satan is telling you na, hindi, pahabain mo tong conflict nyo. Huwag mo siyang pansinin. Paramdam mo talaga sa kanya.
Yeah.
All those negative thinking,
Yeah.
in my
The
head.
silent treatment, which
Yeah.
us women tend to do.
Yes. So, as he says that, he goes, sabi ko, okay, I go, okay, let's talk about it. And then we both started in a prayer.
Oh, nice.
So with his prayer, he goes, help us have a humble heart, a humble attitude to really want to resolve this. That's our main goal here. We want to resolve it. We don't want to parang fuel the fire pa, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. So he's, when each of you or any of you starts with a prayer, parang ang hirap ng umarte
Hirap na
pa.
magalit.
Oo, yung parang, pupush ko pa ba tong kadramahan ko or let go ko na? So parang it also sets the mood to really fix it. Tsaka mararamdaman mo na sincere yung approach niya into really fixing that.
Yeah.
So that's how we resolved it. And by the grace of God, we were like, he goes like, oh, sige na, tama na yan, kiss mo na ako, masyado nang mahaba yung tampo mo. And I'm like, I also just wanted to release that feeling na kahit gusto ko pa i-keep yun, but I'm like, there's no use to keeping this negative emotion and resentment towards my husband kasi hindi naman mababalik nun yung machine ko.
Tama naman.
Diba? But
Unless
yun,
for Mother's Day,
you would buy
Jay,
me,
you
you would buy it back. Buy it back.
Nako, gift-giving opportunity. Sir BJ, hello sa inyo. And to our 1.4K viewers on Facebook as well, hello po sa inyo. Marami din ang nag-share, no, sa ating comment section. Actually, I think we have some of our friends from CCF who are sharing here. Si Rhea D. Cruz, 26 years na kaming kasal. Ngayon pa lang kami nagkaroon ng D-group na magpapalalim sa
praise
aming paglapit sa Lord at hindi pa huli ang lahat, no? Alam ko po ito ang plano ni Lord para sa amin. Yeah. I think beneficial, no? Especially for kung kahit anumang circumstance, no, itong D-group natin, of course, to have a community support system like that. No? Apart from, of course, your personal na practical ways to resolve itong mga issues natin. Listening to your story, naalala ko when VJ was here. VJ was one of our guests here, actually, and parang I can imagine that scene playing out. Na parang, and that's really sweet, di ba? And then you come out of that with more bonding moments, strengthened ang relationship ninyo. There's on the way to forgiveness every day, which I know naman is kailangan talaga in any relationship.
Agree. I'm gonna give some shout out to my friends who are tuned in. Mitch Toruk is watching. Hi Mitch, see you later. Also, our D group members, si Ramel and Rosh Nieves. Hello guys. My sister Kayselin is watching and Rafi. My family is watching too. Hello everyone. And to those who are watching, thank you guys for tuning in. Dami pa nating, simula pa lang to ng mga pwede pa nating matutunan for today.
Yes.
Okay, so Joy, how are you and Edric? How do you practice faith together, and how does it form a bond in your marriage?
well, first of all, I just wanted, maybe some people don't understand what a D group is. I don't know if you've ever explained it
Not
here.
yet.
But, when GK mentioned the word D group, that's one of the ways that we practice our faith. Because it's one thing just to be together as husband and wife trying to solve your issues. But diba, when you journey with other couples, then you begin to realize, yung mga issues namin, it's not uncommon pala.
Yes.
Like there's other people who have been through this. There's other people who we can learn from. You share best practices. You study God's word together. And so I think that's one very important way to practice your faith, is to practice it alongside other people. But the truth is, I can't focus on Edric's faith and he can't focus on mine. We each have to do our part in the marriage as well. So I can't be dependent on Edric to help me to grow spiritually. I really have to spend time reading my Bible, really have to also seek after God, really desire to obey him. And then that makes our marriage stronger. And the important thing about practicing it together is the alignment. I think yan kasi mahirap. Sometimes you start off marriage and you're attracted to each other. You want to be together, but that can only last so long.
Let's say a year or two.
If you're blessed, a year nga is long na,
Yes,
diba?
yes.
Because kami, after 2 weeks, we're irritated with each other already. Because we're so different.
Yes.
And so unless you are united in what you believe about who God is, his purpose for you and your family, and how you're going to raise your children, you're going to have constant conflict. And so hard to resolve. Diba? If there's no alignment. So I think we always default to what does God's word say about this situation?
Yeah.
Or how to raise our kids? Or how we're supposed to relate to one another? And the way that we most practically practice it is by doing our roles. I have to focus on my role as a wife. And when the Bible says to be a helpmate alongside your husband, to submit, alam ko na as women, we hate that word. Okay, that's just the reality.
Alam mo, naisip ko na nga yan, Joy. I think we should come up with a different word
Yeah.
that has the same meaning, but
Yeah.
sounds more, parang mas nice pakinggan.
Because it sounds so military,
Diba?
diba?
Parang
Oo.
submit.
Yeah, yeah.
Diba?
yeah.
Something
Parang
parang
I have no voice, I have no say, but it's actually not like that, because if you look at it at the beginning, it says both of you are actually supposed to consider each other, to submit to one another. But then our specific role is really to be there as a life giver alongside our husband. And diba sometimes we can be death giver, parang complain parate, correcting them, or not meeting their needs for sexual intimacy,
Yes.
and we're not coming alongside them to be life givers. And so that's what I try to focus on. How can I be a life giver to my husband? Now, his role, it's between him and God.
Yes.
Hindi ko sasabihin na, pag hindi mo ginawa yung role mo, hindi ko gagawin yung role ko.
Yes.
It's
Or
really-
sabi ni God, ito dapat yung role mo,
Oo.
ba't hindi mo ginagawa?
Oo. Ba't ka ganyan? Di ba?
Yes.
Nasa Bible to.
Oo.
So you can't do that. You have to focus on, Lord, I'm accountable to you. I will do my part. And then for my husband, ikaw na bahala. You work in his life, and we have to pray for each other. I think, Camille, you have a very strong husband. BJ's a great guy. you know, our husbands
That's
are
true.
very intense people.
Yeah. They're
actually
somehow
similar.
alike. Yes.
And so sometimes, even if we tell them we want to encourage them, mahirap talaga. We have to pray for them. We have to really be committed to
Kailangan
pray.
nila ng prayers.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
that's
they
true.
change that way. BJ's a totally different person. He's an amazing guy, right?
That's true.
And I'm married to an amazing guy, but honestly, we need to keep praying for our
That's true.
husbands. That's part of how we live out our faith in our marriage.
I like that. Just to add to that, what can you say? Kasi ngayon, ang pinaniniwalaan ng mga tao, people believe that a happy wife means a happy life. And I see it I would want to believe that before I used to be that way too, that if things don't go my way, then sira na to lahat. I have to have it my way or not at all, or everything else will not work, parang ganyan. And I see now some of my friends are still,
In that mode.
yes, na parang babae talaga yung nasusunod sa marriage. So what can you say about that?
Sana ganun talaga.
Oh no.
No, I realize that when we think about God's principles, because a lot of times, especially in modern day, we react kasi feeling natin, ba't ganun? Ba't parang kawawa yung mga babae? If God says we're supposed to submit, to honor our husbands, what if they don't deserve it, right? What if I know better? And this is where a relationship with God is super important, because I'm not going to want to follow God's principles
Yes.
for marriage if I don't trust him. If I don't trust that he loves me, that he wants what's good for me. So if you look at the passage in Ephesians in the Bible that says, wives are supposed to submit to their husbands as unto the Lord, that's the key. Lord, I will do my part because I trust you. And I will follow what your word says about how to be as a wife because I know you want what's best for me. So even if we're resistant and we are strong, I think all women are strong. Whether you're a quiet
Yes.
person or
Yes.
you're a vocal person, all women, come on, to birth children, to take care of them. God made us strong. But God also designed it so that our husbands will take care of us, will protect us. And the dynamic is supposed to be that if we honor God by doing our part, God's going to bless our relationship. God's going to bless our marriage. It might not always be perfect, but you have that peace and joy of knowing, Lord, I'm doing my part. So before you, I know you're going to bless me. I know you'll take care of me. Even if my husband isn't perfect, he's difficult. I'm not saying that about you, Han, Edric, not you. I'm saying if
Like
if,
an
in
example.
case.
Yes. Good to
Diba?
clarify
Yeah,
that.
baka mamaya.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to look to you, God, as I do my part. And then I'm going to trust you that you're going to take care of me.
And also of my husband and,
also
our
my
marriage.
husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like that.
in the topic of, nagkikinig ako sa inyo, and nandun ako sa topic ng ano kaya ang mas magandang term, no?
Ng
Because
submit.
yun eh.
Okay.
Yung parang iniisip natin, submit, parang medyo may negative na connotation.
Yes.
One thing na, na-observe ko sa mga married people na kakilala ko, one thing na always kong nagugustuhan is when they use the terms better half.
I like that.
Yeah, because for me, yung connotation nun is that one person is incomplete.
Yes.
Diba? And the wife or the husband makes it better. Diba? Makes it two halves that make a whole.
Yes.
Diba? That will only function, diba, totally and completely, lalo na kapag centered sila on their faith and their Christ. Diba? So, of course, yes, no, you belong to your husband or your wife, for example, but that is in the purpose of making life better for you and for your children,
Tama.
if ever.
Ready ka na, ready ka na.
Diba? Pwede na si GK. Parang natatrain na natin si GK. But you know, to add to that, GK, I think I like what you said, na better half. Like, maybe your other half can actually do better things for you. Like, if you think of it in that context, na hindi lahat kailangan ako lang, ha? Hindi kailangan ako lang yung masunod. Hindi kailangan yung ways ko lang yung tama. Because sometimes in a marriage, it becomes like a competition.
Yes.
Diba? Na, oo, gusto mo kasi tama ka palagi. 'Di ba? Yan yung mga common lines that we hear in an argument. Na parang, but it's not about who's winning this argument, because the fact that you guys are not actually meeting eye to eye, no one's winning, everyone's losing. Because you're on the same team. And yun din yung naging reminder sa amin ni VJ whenever we would have conflict, na it's not about who wins this. Because even if I win, that won't resolve anything, di ba? Kailangan pareho tayong manalo dito. And the only way that can happen is if we resolve it in such a way that we humble ourselves, we are accountable to our own actions, hindi yung, ikaw kasi. Di ba? I think that's very dangerous, that word, that two-word sentence, ikaw
Blame.
kasi.
Yes.
Di ba? Na kaya ko lang naman to ginagawa kasi ikaw. Yan. So, I think accountability is also very important in a marriage, na you have to own up to your actions. Kung nagkamali ka, be humble enough or have the humble attitude to accept your mistakes and to apologize for it. Diba? Hindi yung, sorry na, pero kaya ko lang naman nagawa yun kasi...
Excuse pa.
Yes!
Yeah.
Diba?
Right.
And that's also how VJ taught me na, you know, love, there are days that when I tell you about certain things in our marriage, you don't have to explain to me. Kasi parang we always have that feeling na, de, kailangan ko ng hustisya. Kailangan marinig yung side ko. But you know, I learned na it doesn't have to be that way pala. Like, I learned to keep my mouth shut. Like, if VJ tells me na, love, I didn't like it when you did this and that and that and that. So, I'd be like, of course, at first, ang daming gustong lumabas.
Right.
But I'm like, no, I don't have to explain myself.
You don't have to prove. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, sorry, were you going to say something?
Go ahead.
But, you know, it's not that we're not able to express ourselves in our marriage. I think you are, definitely, to be
Yes.
because that's not what it means. But I think it's in the moment when you're being corrected, which is hard, right? Because all of us, we do have that sense of pride and we want to win. And actually, I read this book where it says the person who always tries to win the argument is probably the prideful one, the more prideful one. But in that sense, like you do express, but it's the timing. Don't try to defend yourself, as you said, when your husband's trying to explain what hurt them. Listen first, ask questions, try to understand where they're coming from, and then say, this is what Edric always encourages, because I struggle with this also. Sweetheart, can you phrase it like this? Will you forgive me for, and say the specific thing that they mentioned, so that they understand that you got it.
Yes.
Right? Not like what you said. Okay, sorry na ha. Sige, sorry. Sorry, okay, sorry na. Diba?
Okay na tayo.
Okay na, yeah.
Huwag na lang pag-usapan.
So, thank you for pointing that out. That was,
Yes.
In the context of our show today, I think ang ating better half, no, of this conversation is also ang ating viewers, na ang dami-dami po talaga na sinishare.
This is the most views we've had
You have a
since we
good
started. Thank you,
God-centered
guys.
life, Miss Camille, and maraming nagpe-pray for Miss Joy and her hand
Oh,
also.
oh, yes.
Ayan, we have friends from CCF, di ba, na nandito po lahat. Merong mga nagpe-pray dito. I wish my hubby would apologize when he throws my stuff. Ayan, he does it when I'm not around. And his reason is that I have not used something for a year or two.
Ayun
Ala,
na nga.
Sakto, tamang-tama dun sa
Appear tayo dyan.
Ayan. O at least may advice na ikaw ngayon, Veronica, no, kung paano gagawin. Luz Tan is here. Chris Santa Anino is greeting Happy Mother's Day for our guest and of course for Camille. And Cerisa Barreto Francia is praying to have a group where I can bring and share my husband. Wow, how inspired is that? A group where he'll become more comfortable and chances to draw him closer to God.
wow, that is a great desire.
Yes.
Just keep praying for that. And, you know, Maybe you guys can connect them after.
You know, dun sa specific viewer natin who asked that, because I have some friends na yun din yung desire nila for their husbands. You know what they did is they actually attended a marriage retreat. That's where I met Joy and Edric. We attended the marriage retreat. And to be honest, nung umpisa, we were like, do we actually need this? But we were really curious. Like, maybe we do. Because at that time when we attended the marriage retreat, we were like 5 years married. So parang we were thinking, baka too early pa. Pero hindi, I'm sure there are a lot of learnings there. So we attended. So because of that experience, we would invite our friends who are husbands and wives. And as they joined the marriage retreat, they are actually parang assigned to groups of people, parang D groups then for couples, na very comfortable yung husbands nila kasi friends na nila yung guys. So maybe that's something that you can do.
Community din talaga, no?
It's really
Yung
a
minention
community.
ni Miss
And parang
Joy.
for me, yung biggest blessing doon, because it was, I think, the first time we've ever attended anything that's church-related. So when I went there, I'm like, wow, my first realization attending a marriage retreat was, hindi lang pala kaming mag-asawa yung may problema. Like sometimes you think you're isolated, na baka kami lang yung may mali. Because when we go out into the world, we don't really talk about, eto nga yung mga problema namin Di ba we talk about the best things in our lives. What's the kung ano yung pinaka-highlight ng buhay natin in that specific moment, diba? We like to share about the good things, and that's what social media is about. But this community, this retreat was more of like, they were sharing their deepest struggles. You know, I was sharing with VJ. Sabi ko, love, meron palang ganitong lugar? Kasi so talaga. Sabi ko, imagine mo, sa labas ng church, you'd hear people bragging about, I bought a new car. Example lang, guys. Like, I bought a new car, or, I got promoted to this and this and job, ganyan. Or, ano pa ba? Basta all the beautiful things this world can offer. We talk about those things. But in this retreat, people were bragging about their deepest sins. Like, example, grabe, nag-cheat nga ako sa asawa ko Pero pinatawad naman niya ako, naging okay na kami because they share their life testimonies on how God worked in their marriages. Every marriage is imperfect.
Yeah.
They've had struggles and they would share that. So parang you see one couple sharing about infidelity and how God healed them. And then you hear another couple sharing about infidelity pero times 10 yung level. So sabi ko kay VJ, this is different. Like people are bragging about.
You mean honest? They're honest. They're so open.
Or they're very open about sharing na kung ikaw yan yung pinagdaanan nyo, ito yung pinagdaanan, yung mas mabigat pa. And I feel like it takes a lot of humility for someone to really share.
Oh, and the right platform also. The right
Yes.
circle of people din, di ba? That will hear this instead of judging.
Yeah, you're right.
Diba?
That's why it's so encouraging.
Yeah.
Kasi doon mo marirealize as an attendee na, wow, a lot of couples para are really lost in this world. People are really seeking and searching na what is that one formula that can make our marriage work. And it all boils down to just really having a God-centered marriage. Na it's a vertical marriage. It's never between just the two of you. So that's why there's that covenant that we get. It's the only covenant that we have with God. It's when we get married, diba? Apart of course from our faith and really saying that we believe in Him, but it's the only covenant that we have with Him. It's with our spouses. So parang for me, it's really a big revelation as we attend that. So yun, it helped us a lot. It helped us, be surrounded by friends also who go through the same struggles and to journey with them. Kasi wala talagang perfect. Like every week may nabubunot sa loto na, itong couple naman ang nabunot.
Ito naman ang pag-uusapan ngayon.
Yes, this week kami ang nabunot ni VJ na
Yes.
nagka-conflict sa mga stuff like that.
Well, for our viewers today, baka ang real Camille na po and our session with Miss Joy today ang maging start ng inyong journey towards being a Christ-centered couple. No? Meron tayong mga husbands who are commenting. Si Ralph Calibo, husband here. Gusto ko yan.
Wow!
Watching to get tips and see my wife's perspective.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
very
That's a
nice.
great husband.
Yeah.
Great for you. And then this talk or collaboration with Camille and Joy is a blessing. Thank you for making it possible. And then ang gustong-gusto ko yung sinabi ni Shini Ramitan that submission to God first teaches us to submit to our husbands or our wives. Diba? So, una muna, si God. Yes, it's actually lovely now na nare-recognize daw nila ito and yung mga arguments nila are more communicative.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so before we go deeper sa ating discussion today, let's take a breather. Kasi diba, we've only been on air for like what? 35 minutes? And I feel like we've tackled so much. So okay, hinga muna tayo with some fun and light chikahan. GK, what do you have there?
Yay! Ayan. Tagapakinig lang po talaga ako dito today. Alright, but I
Oy,
also...
hindi, may mga insights ka din, ha?
Yeah, you're so wise.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Ayan. Eto, tingnan natin if you guys are wise, insightful, and fun as well.
Ay,
Diba?
grabe
With
yung
our
pressure.
fish... With our fishbowl questions. Miss Joy, as our
Okay.
guest, madali
Okay.
lang naman to. Very easy questions for you.
Promise.
Yes. Oo, and fun lang na answers
Okay,
ang
let's
ating
see.
hinahanap. Okay?
What is the hardest part about being a mom?
Mali ako. Hindi pala siya easy.
Wait lang.
All right. Okay.
Well, it is a great question though, and I think in this season for me now, it's really it's two things. First is letting go of my kids because I have an oldest son and he's in college in the U.S. And I homeschooled my kids all their lives, and so when I had to say goodbye to him, napakasakit talaga. You know, that was one of the hardest things is realizing that we parent to a certain point in a certain way, but then afterwards the relationship, the parenting has to change. And that's a transition. And transitions are always difficult because you're saying goodbye to one season and then you're welcoming another, but sometimes hindi ka pa ready.
Yes.
You know? And then I would say that the other hard thing is I didn't know that I had temper issues or impatience until I started homeschooling my kids. And God really exposed that, Joy, you have a lot to improve on in your person because all my kids have different personalities. So yung iba, super lakas, they're very expressive, emotional, and I would get impatient. And then I realized, wow, you know, parenting also teaches you how to grow as a person. Even though you're trying to help your children grow in character, it's also for you that you realize, oh, Lord, you're also parenting me. And you're also trying to help me see the areas where I need to change as a mom, whether it's patience or being more humble or really listening to my kids or really understanding them. So I think those two things have been the struggles that I've had in recent years. Yeah. Pero marami pa yan. Pero
Sobrang na-enjoy ko tong lesson on humility. No? This is Miss Joy Tan-Chi Mendoza talking to us that she still has a lot to learn. Diba? And isn't that refreshing to find like always in a person, especially sa mga public figures natin, diba? Oo, at pasensya na po again na hindi po pala ganun kadali yung question natin. Yes, sige. Let's do question number 2. Sana easier na ito.
Go, Camille.
Okay.
Ito. But Joy will answer also. What is your funniest, mom fails?
Ayun. Sige.
ikaw
On the
na
flip
lang
side.
muna.
Mom
Okay.
fail?
Ayan.
Well, I'm sure madami akong mom fails doon sa mga teenagers. Kasi sila naman yung mga bashers ko talaga na, Mom, don't do that, Mom.
But do you remember a funny instance? Ayan, lesson on humility din yan, Camille.
Kaya nga I'm sure I have a lot. Like siguro one of the things that my kids would tell me is that I'm always on my phone. Ganyan. Tapos si Ice, inasar ako kasi bumili ako nung parang yung sling na casing.
Yes.
So parang when I wore it, so I was walking in the house and I was wearing it. Sabi na, wow, Mom, ganyan ka ba na ayaw mo talagang mahiwalay sa cellphone mo? Na binilan mo pa ng sling talaga para nakadikit sa
Coming from
katawan
the
mo.
kid.
Diba? Tapos ako yung parang, syempre pero na-realize ko, tama naman siya. But siguro yun yung mga little things na sinasabi ni Joy na we are the ones parenting them, but it feels like mas tayo yung natututo dahil sa kanila. So, you know, parang I wanted to like somehow defend myself na parang, why are you always looking at me when it comes to using gadgets? But what about you guys? Alam mo yun? But I feel like, you know, I didn't have to do that. So, ang ending, pinamigay ko na lang yung sling na yun. Hindi ko na ginamit.
Binenta yata ni BJ.
Baka. Isa yun sa mga naisamin na sa marketplace.
Nagka-impact talaga sa'yo yung comment
Talaga.
ni Ice.
So I think one, I'm sure I have a lot, but isa yun sa mga naalala ko na pinagtawanan at pinagtripan talaga nila yung sling case na yun
It's,
ng
it's
phone
the
ko.
merging of generations also.
Or parang nabaduyan sila na, Mom, what's that?
Usually
Why
kasi
wearing
ang
that?"
direction ng kaka-cellphone mo yan, nanggagaling
Sa
sa nanay.
magulang,
Oo,
diba?
sa parent, papunta sa mga anak, pat baliktad.
That's
kay
the other
Camille.
way around
Yes.
now.
Miss Joy, how about you?
Yeah, I was thinking there was an incident when my son was competing in a swimming race and he jumped into the water with his shirt on and it was very embarrassing for him because obviously you're supposed to remove your shirt. And he did the wrong stroke. So as in mali na mali. It was one of his first competitions. He was so embarrassed. He was mortified. Kasi daming tao. It was at IS, I think, and they were all watching. And after he came out of the water, I was just thinking, Lord, how can I encourage him? And my husband was there also. So feeling ko I had to say something. You know, sometimes as a parent, you feel like
Okay.
you need to comfort them and
Do something
especially as a
about
mom
it.
because you're so you know your heart goes out to them. So nung siya sa side after and he's crying and he was a big guy. He was already I think 16 at the time. And so I'm already thinking, I know what I can say. So I went to him and my husband he's still processing and he said the better thing. Pero since you asked me, what did I do? So nilapitan ko siya and I said, sweetheart, I have had many embarrassing moments in my life. Do you know that when I was giving birth, imagine all the things that happened. One time I was giving birth and can I say this? I poo-pooed at the same time. I'm sorry. Gee, I'm sorry.
Okay, this is a desperate mom
Okay.
trying to comfort her son.
Coming up with words
Yes,
to say.
yes,
and
yes,
Birth
comfort.
naman
Okay.
and everything's, natural. And then he looked at me and he said, it's not relatable at all, Mom. It's not comforting. Yes, totally different. Your embarrassing moment is totally different than mine. And so my husband, he pulled me aside. Stop. Let me take over. But I realized, I think it's not. Sorry. It's so good. It's real Camille. Okay, so
Patrick saying,
yeah. It's like, and he said the better thing. But I realize as moms, sometimes we're over eager because we want to comfort our kids. We want to connect with them. And sometimes our approach, sometimes we need to maybe step back first and realize, wait, is this really going to be helpful in this moment? Or I'm just trying desperately to connect with my child, but it's not probably the best thing to say at this time. Because it's a really stupid thing, honestly, that I did. So, there.
Coming from mga perspective ng mga sons
Yes,
also,
yes.
sometimes we would say no na parang mom no not helping me at all, pero the fact na may sinabi kayo sa amin actually comforting na yun siya. Yeah.
Can you talk to my son? Joke.
No, but I mean, always naman well, of course, as moms, always talagang may gustong sabihin or may masasabi talaga about, especially their sons, no? Mom and son na relationship is something talaga na different.
That's
it's unique and it's very special, di ba? But most of the time, ako at least in my personal experience, as long as when I turn to the side, my mom's there and it's okay, kahit ganun lang, that's good for me. Okay na yun.
You're
And
such a good son.
Ay, ma'am.
But kasi na-realize ko, because there are different kinds of moms.
Yes, yun
There is the
din.
one that comforts, and there's the one that,
Oo.
diba? And stuff like
Pero
that.
pag nawala din yan at like general, hahanap-hanapin mo
That's
din
true.
talaga. No
That's
matter what age, Yeah.
Yeah.
Kahit
Oh,
ako
really?
ngayon, di ba? So, hinahanap ko pa rin
That's
siya.
at least
You're good.
It is
All
very
right, last
encouraging.
question from
Okay.
the fishbowl.
I hope that I'm gonna look for a short one. They're all
Sure,
cut the
sure.
same length. I can't see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh,
Oh,
going back
babe,
to the
you're gonna
marriage
like
thing.
What is
Okay.
it?
What's a characteristic of your spouse that you find super attractive?
Ooh.
Okay, wait. My husband has an amazing smile. Like it's one of the first things I noticed when we were on campus together at Ateneo, and I would see him walk across campus, and he just had this. He's a dimply smile, so it's super cute. And
So,
I was
crush mo
like,
si Edric ng college?
at first he wasn't my type because he's super clean looking. Do you know that? You know that about him? He's super clean.
Yes,
cut.
yes.
And my type before was more of the Marlboro man, yung scruffy na ano.
Okay.
And then now I don't like that type at all. But
Yeah.
but it's like when I first noticed Edric, I'm like, oh, he really looks like a nice guy, very sincere, genuine person. And it was really his smile that caught my attention first. And he really smiles at everybody. He's like a friend to everybody.
yeah.
So that was one of the first things that attracted me to him. Is I could just see that he was a sincere person.
Mm.
And he still
Is he watching?
Maybe if he's
maybe
not
he'll watch
busy.
later. I think
Yeah.
I'll tell him to watch this part because he'll love
Yeah.
this.
Camille?
Ako naman, siguro the first thing that attracted me to VJ was his voice.
Wow.
Oo, kasi LDR kami.
Ay, oo nga.
So when we met or when we started really, talking, it was just over the phone. Syempre, hindi pa kami nagve-video call dahil hindi pa kami close. Kailangan mga ilang phone calls muna before that. And then, I think that was the first thing. Parang his voice sounds not only attractive to me, but comforting. Yung parang I feel like, when he
Safe.
speaks, yes, ganon. Yun
Merong ganun eh. May ganung
Yeah.
effect ang ibang mga bosses natin. Uy, kinikilig ang ating
Ano
1.2
ba
K
yan?
views. At
Kaya
light lang po
nga.
ang questions ko sa fishbowl.
Oo nga.
Ayan. But I think we can proceed with our next na segment.
Yes.
After we say hello to, wow, LB Jane Rosa, not a mom, but still learning so much in this
Wow.
conversation. Uy, naghahanda na yan siya.
Yes.
Okay. And then, of course, ang viewers natin from California, we have people from Cebu, we have Bicol, all over the Philippines, and everywhere else.
May nakita ko kanina from Canada. They're all
Yes.
saying hi.
What time is it?
Ayan.
Maaga pa. Pwede pa.
Medyo maaga pa.
Sabi ni-
Kinikilig si John Jerickson Yabaw, sabi ni Mitch.
And there you go again. Nag-look back na naman ako to the guesting ni VJ. Parang, oo nga. Parang kitang-kita sa kanilang dalawa, no? Yung kilig na yan.
Oo
Alright? Yeah.
Okay, so eto na, let's move on to our next segment, Mommy Camp. Okay, let's talk about homeschooling.
Mention
Kasi
kanina.
ako, na-inspire ako ni Joyce sa pag-homeschool. Dati hindi ko rin talaga siya naiintindihan. It's something that I never thought I would do for my kids. So, tell us about your experience in homeschooling all 6 of them.
So first, maybe I'll share why we did it. 'Cause I
Okay.
think that's
Yes, please.
more important. You know, I just really felt like in this day and age when there's so many competing influences talaga for the hearts of our kids, what is the best way to raise them to really love God and know God? So una, gusto ko talaga mag-homeschool. But Edric was not for it. Because he's Ateneo all the way, he was really happy with his education. And I was homeschooled for a little bit. So I just imagined a lifestyle with my children that was radically different. As in, like, you're together every day, you're really engaging your kids. It's very relational, the way they learn. That's what I wanted. And then I prayed about it. And then eventually Edric said yes. And so that became the beginning of our journey. That was like 21 years ago.
Wow.
Yes, I've been homeschooling for I think I'm going to be homeschooling till I'm 60. Because I have so many kids. Parang lola na.
Yeah, by the time Kaylee enters college.
I was thinking about that and I was like, I wonder how that's going to be. But so homeschooling has been one of the best decisions we made as a family because it kept our kids close to us and to really have a close relationship. And that's what I was after because I read this book where it says you cannot influence children whose hearts you do not have. If you do not have a good relationship with them, you can't really teach them values. And that's what we were after, teaching them values that would really anchor them. Because the truth is, diba, we can't control what's going to happen to our kids as they get older. The trials, the conflicts, the issues they will face. But if they can be anchored spiritually, emotionally, relationally, then they can weather those storms in a healthier way.
Yes.
And I just thought, Lord, this is the kind of lifestyle you want to have where we're learning. It's not just about books, but it's like a lifestyle. Kahapon we went to a bee farm.
Yes,
Yeah. Anyway, I know you're busy. But we learned all about the bees and it's experiential, it's hands-on, it's not just about books. And that's the kind of education I wanted our kids to have. Where it's experiential, and it's dynamic, and it's like it doesn't stop at the end of like 2 p.m., 3 p.m., but it's like you travel together, you learn, or you're engaging one another at the dinner table, like a much more fluid, natural context for learning.
Yes.
Where they will love learning.
Tama.
So, yun.
I wanna angle it to Camille, no? Because, of course, with roots, di ba?
Yes,
Na school talaga siya, educational institution. Ano ang stand ng mga schools dito sa mga moms and families natin that prefer homeschooling, di ba? So, saan kayo nanggagaling?
It's a very
from that
good
point?
question
Yeah.
because JK for Roots Academy we're actually I think by next year we're fixing lang our permits but we would offer homeschooling.
Oh,
Because I'm homeschooling Nala and Nolan. So parang I think it's just right that in this school that we are also managing is to offer the same.
Give the parents the
Yes,
option.
that option. Kasi yun yung mga anak ko. So, I'm sure people will be asking na, hino-homeschool mo yung mga anak mo, pero bakit hindi mo sila ipasok sa school mo? 'Di ba? That's what I
Yun
get,
din ang
the question that I
wino-wonder
get
ko
most of the
actually.
time. So, we would also offer homeschooling kasi, to be honest, I started homeschooling because I didn't have a choice. It was the pandemic. And
Right.
Nala was like 3 years old, entering school age na siya. So, kailangan niya na mag-aral. But the thing was, everything was online and it wasn't working for us. I was getting frustrated. Yung 30 minutes na online class, she couldn't focus. And nagigets ko naman na it's really hard to do that. So sabi ko, I think, we have to try homeschooling. So as we do that, I realized that it was teaching me more than I was teaching my
Oh,
daughter.
wow, yeah.
It taught me to change my ways. Na parang dati kasi ang thinking ko, sarado. Hindi ko kayang turuan yung anak ko. I'm that kind of mom who can teach her kids. Kasi, with Nathan nga, I'm like, Nate, if you want our relationship to be at its best, that we won't ever argue, I'll get you a tutor. Kasi wala talaga akong pasensya. And I think I got that from my mom. Na ganun din, parang usually it's a passed on thing. Di ba what I get, what I've experienced growing up, yun din yung i-apply ko sa mga anak ko. So that was my stand with Nathan. Na parang may tutor siya, I don't touch the academic side. Kasi school din siya lumaki, ganyan. But with this, as I homeschool Nala, I realized that ako pala yung kailangan magbago. Na hindi pala yung anak ko yung may problema, ako pala. Kasi ayokong mag-adjust sa ways niya. Gusto ko lang ipilit na, ganito kita gustong turuan, kaya kailangan ganito ka matututo.
Yeah.
But homeschooling is an entirely different journey. Like, it'll make you think of ways and actually just really cling on to God. Na Lord, ba't ko ba ito ginawa? Help me. Am I doing it right? Or kasi parang naisip ko, I'm putting the education of my child in my hands, on my hands. Am I credible enough? Or am I good enough to actually teach my children these things?
Yeah.
Kasi hindi naman ako graduate ng teacher and all these things. Yan yung feeling ko ng mga fears ng homeschooling parents. But as now we're on our incoming third year
Wow.
of homeschooling, kasama na si Nolan.
Yay.
So imagine from just one child,
Two na.
dalawa na sila. So mas double the challenge. But as Joy shares, I really enjoy it. Kasi I read also recently na parang some parents, they say that we only have this and this much summers with our children. Let's say you only have 18 summers or actually less kasi pag nag-school na sila. So like from 4 years old until they finish school, that's the only time that you can spend summer with them. And then I realized that with homeschooling, you don't really have to count how much time you'll be spending with your children. Kasi you're practically with them 24/7, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom. 'Di ba? Mas parang feeling ko mas okay 'yun. But even if I'm not, even if I'm working, I make sure I have that time to teach them. Especially kasi preschool pa lang. So
That's
hindi
super
pa
fun though.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Parang foundations pa lang, hindi pa masyado kaming OA sa academics.
Wala pang calculus.
Wala. I don't think I can do that, to be honest. That's so far back, but yun yung sinasabi ko na parang natututo ka din as you teach them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that yun lang. Ang saya lang ng journey of homeschooling them.
For our viewers out there, ini-introduce natin yung concept of homeschooling. Definitely, it has worked for Miss Joy and for Camille now going on to 3 years. But definitely po, relative naman. Nasa
Yes.
inyo naman, kung ano yung mag-work sa personality ng ating mga kids,
Correct.
di ba? Kung ano po yung mas pinakagagana in terms also of your family discussions and decisions. Yeah, but definitely something siguro that you can consider, with these experiences that are very positive, syempre, coming also from their journeys, di ba,
Yeah.
that they had to learn to like it.
GK, I just want to add, because I think that sometimes when we share this, it's never about saying that if you send your kids to school, then there's something wrong with your parenting. I love what GK said. You're so wise that it's really a personal
Yes.
decision. Like for me, it's really a conviction that came from God. It has to be something that's personal. And some parents really get tutors for different subjects as they homeschool. Because what they want is to have their kids around them more, but they can supplement their
Yes,
teaching.
of course.
Because it's a personalized education. So what will work to help your kids be engaged and to learn well, and then what will also work for you.
Yes, and
Hindi
for your
naman tayo
sanity.
magmamartir.
Oo.
Diba?
Tsaka hindi tayo magagaling-galingan na kaya natin lahat.
Kung hindi natin
Tawa
kaya,
ka naman.
yeah.
That's true.
So just to encourage
That's
them.
true. You get
So-
help.
And just be intentional. If your kids are in school, just make sure that you're really engaged with them.
Yes.
And you're still very intentional about engaging them.
Like,
That's
kasi
the
kami
key.
half-half kami,
Right.
Joy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Oo.
Nala and Nolan are homeschooled, but Nathan goes to school. So, hindi talaga kami, like, it's not purely like that. Kagaya ng sinabi mo, iba-iba.
Yeah.
So,
For
the
different
same goes
kids
also
natin.
for everyone. It's just, for us, we just really want to share this experience. Kasi, dun din ako naging interesado. I want to learn more about your experience, diba? How is it doable and stuff like that. And
Tsaka
once,
6 kids.
diba? It's like literally a classroom,
Literal.
but of different ages. So, mas mahirap yon,
Ayan.
diba?
Miss Joy, si Nika Santiago is saying thank you to you sa inyong mga sinabi as a wife. Need ko po talaga lahat daw ng yun at kung paano po ako ngayon sa anak ko, nakuha daw po sa inyo ni Sir Edric.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yes.
That's good.
Ayan. Ginaya daw po niya. Alright, no? Nag-model siya from that kung paano kayo sa inyong mga
Praise
kids.
God. Thank
That's
you.
nice.
Thank
Always
you.
nice to
Blessing.
know. Meron din tayong homeschooling mom joining us in the audience, Flores Camarines. It's fun and sometimes challenging, but homeschooling is also the best decision that I will never regret for the rest of my life. Yung bonding and memories together, very priceless, hindi matutumbasan ng kahit ano man.
I love that. So
Yeah.
encouraging.
Again, encouragement po yan ha,
Yes.
para sa inyo. Yes. And sana mas marami pa no ang mag-consider nitong homeschooling natin.
Alam mo,
na
just
concept.
to share a little bit of mga advantages. Oh, you don't have to wake up so early.
Yes.
You won't be stuck in traffic.
Yes.
You save gas. You save baon. Di ba? You don't get baon to them.
And your kids eat healthier.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
you're able to really be intentional about the food they have for lunch, and it's very different. And that's why it's a whole lifestyle change. And there are moms who do it that they're also working. That's why they get a tutor or they connect with programs where there's a little more flexibility. So like Homeschool Global is where we are homeschooling, and there's lots of different options for parents and there's a community also.
Yes.
Because
Actually,
they
yung
need
question
friends.
nila, yun yung question
Yes,
nila,
they
na
need friends.
pag hinomeschool mo yung anak mo, paano yung socialization nila?
Paano nga? No, the joke. There really is socialization because the kids are engaged in the different programs, the clubs.
Yes.
They have like in our homeschool group, ang daming mga bata. So when we went to the bee farm yesterday, there was like 30 plus kids.
So parang ina-arrange to ng Homeschool Global. Parang they have these events.
Yeah,
And
but
that-
this one actually we just arranged on our own
Really?
as
The parents?
But
Yes.
Homeschool Global does have events, but then it's more like you can also take the initiative as parents
Yes.
to organize activities. Like I think the next one we're gonna go to a farm. Sama ka?
Sama ko. Sama ko. Sige, sige.
So yun, there's lots of things you can do where you can get kids together because they also need that. Kids learn well in group settings also, and they learn how to relate to each other. So we need to find ways as parents, if you're homeschooling, to be creative about how can I get my kids also exposed, maybe to sports, to clubs, to
Their interests.
Yes, their interests, a different networks of other homeschoolers because they're out there naman.
Yeah. Ako, on the flip side of it, feeling ko it's also a special lesson on independence. And when the time comes, no, na parang, ito na lahat ng lessons na bigay ko na sa'yo, now what are you gonna do with it?
Yes.
No? Saan naman ikaw pupunta? Saan mo dadalhin tong mga lessons na
I
to?
love it.
And I'm sure lahat ng kids ninyo, no, na-experience na yung ganyan.
Nako, I have yet to see, but I look forward to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Being a mom for me is a privilege from God. Sabi ni Marel Doronia, I feel like I need a lot of self-check and modifications as a mom in order to represent God in our daily activities with the kids, in order to motivate them as well. Salute
love
daw
that.
sa inyo, kay Miss Joy, kay Camille, for being a great mom. And Virna Cesar, sa inyo doon po na-inspire din to do the homeschooling thing.
Ang daming nabudol ni Joy into homeschooling.
Meron tayong question. Ayan. Kay LJ Uy. All right, Bayawa. I'm a homeschooling mom. Miss Joy, how do you handle the lessons po na iba-iba yung grade? Merong na-curious, no?
Yeah.
Dun sa iba't ibang
So
grade.
I think the great thing is when you start homeschooling your kids, because hindi sila sanay na may expert teacher. Kasi I'm not an expert, right? So what happens is they learn to study on their own. As you go through the years, they become independent. So for the older kids, for example, grade 6 above, a lot of the subjects they do on their own.
Grade 6 above.
Yes.
Okay.
Ideally, kasi by grade 6, 7, mga middle school, they're able to be independent learners.
You're able to have a routine na, establish your
Yes.
routine, so gets
Yes.
na nila yon.
Pero mahirap talaga, kunyari, ipupull out mo yung kids mo from school at grade 5. Tapos you're gonna homeschool them because you're not used to teaching them all those years. And then all of a sudden you have to teach harder math
Yes.
and, grammar, things like that. So at home, what happens is the older kids will do their work independently, and then I'll focus more on the
Younger
younger
ones.
ones. Like my boys now, they're teaching themselves calculus, trigonometry.
Diba?
Hindi ko kaya yun, no? Hindi ako,
Wow.
Teaching themselves.
I hope it's going okay. They're by God's grace, they're doing okay because they were never dependent on a teacher, so they had to figure out math on their own.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
They never had a concept of somebody supposed to be an expert teaching me.
Yes.
It's more like I'm supposed to take charge of my education
Right.
and learn. So as long as they become, this is what we have to focus on: make them good readers, good comprehension, the ability to express themselves in
Research.
written,
Yes.
research. And now, if you want to learn about something, what are you going to do? You're going to use an AI. Or
Yes.
you're going to go
Or
online,
Google, or research.
Right?
Yes.
So if they know how to read, to comprehend, and they have a basic in problem solving, they can learn all the subjects on their own, like history, like science. You just need to be able to read, right?
Yeah.
Sa supplemental na lang, dalhin mo sa museum, National
Pwede.
Museum
And
natin.
experiences like yung BR.
And so many more other options.
Nako. Ito na. Mommy Camille
Yes.
and Mommy Joy. Ayan, you're talking about homeschooling and not being experts but being good teachers to your children.
Facilitators.
Yeah,
Yes.
facilitators.
That's
Okay, balik tayo sa basics muna.
Okay.
Okay, because I have a little challenge right here.
Ooh.
Always naman ako may dalang mga pa-challenge para sa inyo. You are gonna need to blindfold yourselves.
Okay.
Ah,
Ano
alright.
gagawin natin? Which one?
Okay.
So later pa yan.
Later pa pala. Hala,
Okay.
nauna ako na booking.
Mas ano yan, level up.
Alright, yes, sige. Ito na lang, mga basics din ng options.
Okay.
Alright, na meron tayo para sa ating mga parenting, para sa ating marriages also. Ang atin lang namang question this or that.
Okay.
So ano po ang inyong pipiliin at ano ang inyong ipiprefer?
May explain ba?
Can you
Pwede
explain?
naman.
It's
Okay.
either this or that.
Okay.
And then why did you choose
Okay, this or that.
what you
So,
chose? Yes.
magpapakita po ako ng pictures.
Okay.
There are flashcards right here. And then may options tayo na pagpipilian. And then you can back
Okay.
on your choice.
All right,
Okay?
let's do it.
Let's start with the first one. Oh, parang obvious ang sagot for this one. Going
Oh my
out
gosh. Me,
or staying at home? Yes, Miss Joy.
ako homebody talaga. I love to stay at home. Yeah. So, is it that? What do I say?
Sige,
That.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it's
Yeah.
staying at
You.
home.
Oh, same staying at home.
Staying at home.
Yeah.
May mga
Napagod
reasons
na
ba
sa
about
mga
this?
kaganapan sa life. So I'd rather be home.
You already have enough,
when hindi naman kailangan. Parang hindi ako mamall na tao.
Mhm.
May mga kilala kasi ako na like every Sunday they have to be out, they have to be malling or just doing something with the family. Ako I'd rather be home.
I think this also goes back to the fact na syempre, we've created our homes to be safe spaces and comfortable spaces, di ba, na pwede nating stayhan.
And I think parang both of us, Joy and I, we've designed our homes in such a way that we have everything we need there. They have a gym,
Yeah.
they have an office,
Yeah.
a homeschooling room. So parang hindi mo na talaga kailangan umalis unless kailangan like for work or something.
Alright. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. Alone time or family time? This
Parang
or
may
that?
both ba?
I was gonna say, this is hard.
You have to choose one.
Yeah, at least, no, this or that. Okay, alone time.
Those.
Those. Plural na lang, those.
All these. But I know about your quiet time thing. Right?
Yes,
Diba?
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So,
But alone time is like you're just by yourself. Diba? Parang ganoon. Kunwari, buong araw na to, ikaw lang mag-isa. Mga ganyan.
Hindi. Yeah.
No, hindi. Oo.
So I prefer, of course, family time, but I need decompression time also. But that won't be my default. I said, I
Yes.
want my kids around me all the time. Like a hen. Parang gusto ko nandyan lang sila. Diba?
Sunod-sunod lang siya.
Saka yung quiet time naman, nahahanap din naman siya talaga,
Find
no?
ways.
Kung sasadyain. Yeah.
Minsan
So,
sa oras, sa time management, like you
correct.
wake up earlier before everyone does, so you'll have your alone time. Pero hindi siguro something that I would choose over having everyone around.
Yeah. A choice na you wouldn't make naman.
Yes.
So, family time tayo. for this
Definitely.
One more? All right. With makeup or no makeup? Nako.
Me, probably no makeup, just because my skin's also sensitive and I get breakouts. So if I'm always wearing makeup, it's actually not okay. So I prefer
No makeup.
natural, just
Yes.
like sunscreen or a tinted sunscreen,
Yes,
but
yes.
prefer no makeup as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Same. Alam mo, may quick kwento ako dyan sa no makeup. Because naging ano namin ni VJ yan. Kinatampo niya yan sa akin. Because every time we would go out before, we would go on a date, ganyan. I would usually just not wear any makeup at all. Sometimes hindi pa ako nakapagsuklay. So parang one
Natural
time,
beauty eh.
siguro, maybe, that's my peg. Sana, pero it probably didn't come out that way. Kaya siya nag-comment. So sabi niya, Love, sabi niya, bakit kapag umaalis tayo, hindi ka nag-aayos? Pero pagka may work ka, nag-e-effort ka talaga mag-ayos. So naramdaman ko na na-hurt talaga siya. Na parang, is it because you feel like hindi mo kailangan mag-ayos with me? Ganon. Tapos when he was actually sharing that with me, I didn't realize na,
It was a big deal.
yes. So, shinare ko sa kanya na si Love, I associated kasi putting on makeup and fixing myself with work. So parang it's something that I really need to do for my work. And with you, I feel like I don't need to do all those things. Na parang finally, there's this, one person or one time in my life na pwede akong umalis na just na ako lang, na as real as I can be. So nung na-explain ko sa kanya yun, doon niya naintindihan na, okay, so hindi pala siya like a bad thing of not trying to put makeup whenever we go out.
So,
yun.
mano-mano pala kayo dun sa binenta niyang set.
Diba?
Meron din palang papantay. Alright. Anyway, I love this or that question.
Yes.
Hugs or kisses?
Oh.
Nako.
Ano,
Abundant
both
yan.
ka ba?
Abundant yan ngayong...
Game so hard. Me, maybe hugs. Only because, sometimes with guys, di ba, pag kissing, ibang sabihin, may pupuntahan na yan. Minsan.
Nagtakip na lang ako talaga.
Nagtago na lang si
As
Gigi.
the representation of guys, kaya kayo.
So sometimes I feel like it's sweeter at times when it's just like my husband just wants to hug me and just like no expectations.
Yes, yes. Alam mo, sinabi ko yan kay VJ. Kasi ko, Love, hindi pa pwedeng cuddle-cuddle lang. Gusto ko lang yung ganyan-ganyan lang, yung yakap-yakap lang. Yung,
No such thing for guys.
yes, but for them, Love, hindi ganun yun. Kapag ka may nagdikit na yung mga yung mga balat-balat natin,
Wala na.
may nagigising na sa mga kaluluwa nila, ganyan. So I just found that really funny because that probably explains how different women are from men. You know?
But I did hear parang a tidbit of trivia na
Yeah.
parang ang important lang daw kung magka-hug man or ang magkikiss is the first 6 seconds.
Yes, I saw that too.
Yes. Oh.
Because what does it do?
It triggers
Happy
yung
hormones.
yung oxytocin.
Yes.
Yes, and then of course yung chemical reactions ng katawan, which is why of
It's
course
like the right amount of time daw is 6 seconds, and then in those 6 seconds the body will release these hormones.
And then that's what the hugs are for. That's what the
Yes.
kisses are for.
So if it's shorter than
What
that,
would you prefer, to kiss for like 30 seconds or hug for
doon ako sa hug talaga. I like hugging talaga.
Tapos syempre pag nag-hug, don't be the first one
Pero
to let
nung may
go.
narinig na akong may benefits yung kissing, okay na din.
Oo naman.
Okay na
Oo,
din.
iba din naman
Oo.
yun. Oo. Cardio.
Yeah, or for our
Get your
mental
heart
health.
going.
Yes.
Oo. And
thinking? You're very interesting.
it's always nice to be kissed, friends.
Hindi ko kinaya yung cardio.
Because it gets your heart going.
Yeah, bumibilis. Parang yung
blood
heart rate.
flowing.
Basta
That's
you're kissing the right person.
Yes,
Tama.
yes,
Dapat.
that's
Dapat.
true.
Okay.
Bago pa mapunta sa iba ang usapan natin, let's go to our next segment, Connect with Camille, where we do sincere heart-to-heart talk. And what I love about this segment is we get to talk about things na either hard to talk about or hindi masyadong napapag-usapan. So, hard topics usually. Let's start with something I think is very relatable naman sa people of different faiths. Having your faith tested. Has that happened to any of us at ano ba yung nangyari? So when was that moment in your life, Joy, when you felt like God is really testing you?
Wow. From kissing.
The ano of emotion.
And I would actually love to hear what they also have to say, because I think
Yes.
people have been
Yes.
through a lot of stuff. And I think for me it was significantly two moments. The first one when I was 15, I've shared about this, and I was a victim of rape. But the second one was a more recent one when I went through major surgery, and it was really difficult because it was one of those moments where I felt like God. I was disappointed with God in a different way than when I was younger, because when you go through physical pain, rather than, let's say, you go through, let's say, something like abuse or rape, of course there's physical pain also, but it's like it's the emotional pain afterwards that you're also dealing with. But when the physical pain lingers for a long time, that's when you're so uncomfortable and you really start to question, Lord, is this really your plan for me? Is this what you want for me? Is this from you? And the way I framed it was, I really understood that it was an attack of the evil one, because there's a Bible verse that says that, the evil one, Satan, comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But God, Jesus, came to give us life. So what God wants for us is life, but the evil one wants to destroy us. And I believe that there are times when God allows us to go through periods of testing or difficulty, and that was one of them for me. But he wasn't rejoicing in it like, yeah, I want you to suffer. It wasn't like that, but it was more like he allowed the evil one to there was an opening like in the timeline of my life, and it was allowed, but it was always calibrated, because God, the Bible also says that God never allows us to go through anything beyond what we can bear. And he will always provide a way of escape, whether it's an emotional escape or physical, to run away from sin or whatever. And so that moment, I think, by God's grace, it refined for me the fact that God is still good, and that God gets us through our hardest seasons, and he never abandons us. But there's times when it lingers a little, and we just have to trust him. And we just have to believe that our circumstances do not change who God is. Because I think the temptation is, and Camille, I'm sure you've gone through this, you lost your husband, your first husband, and sometimes we look at circumstances and parang God must not be good. Kasi nangyari to eh. If God is real, if he exists, but ko dinaanan to,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Why did he allow this? If he's a good God, why would he allow this? And this is where we have to reframe and realize that God is always good. He is ever good. He is ever loving. And that circumstances don't change that. But if we trust, the Bible says, if we trust in him and we believe that we will see the goodness of God in the land of the living, we will. And he comes through for us in ways that we would never expect. And I guess the biggest comfort for me was God reminded me as I was out being wheeled into the operating room, because I was all alone. It was the day after Christmas. Edric couldn't be with me. And God gave me a promise in Romans where it says, neither death nor life, no principalities or sickness or anything will be able to separate you from my love. And it was just downloaded to me in such a personal way that I was like, Lord, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go through this season. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to anticipate, but I know that you're going to be with me. You're going to take care of me. And he did. And I look back now, and I think God allows us also to go through difficult circumstances, not to punish us, but to refine us and to grow our faith and to make us better versions of ourselves. Because the reality is, pag wala tayong dinadaanan, how can we also be relatable to others? If we're always sharing about everything's perfect, our marriage is perfect, our parenting is perfect, we have all the money we need, no health issues, it's, how can I relate to that? You know what I'm saying? But once you share brokenness and you share difficult things you're going through, it's all of a sudden, everyone can understand what brokenness is. Those dark moments of the soul when you feel lost and confused and you're going through trial. And all of a sudden, they want to open up. They want to connect with you because they feel like, alam mo yung dinadaanan ko din yan eh. It may not be the exact same circumstance, but it's those feelings and those doubts and the broken feeling of just being lost or confused. And then you have the opportunity to minister, to be a blessing. And so I also believe that God allows those difficult moments because He wants us to be channels of blessing
Yes.
and His goodness, and to come alongside people and say, you know what you're going through, I can understand that it must be hard. And I went through that. I just want to encourage you. These are the things that God shared with me. These are the things that got me through that season. And I hope it will be an encouragement to you.
Yes.
So that's kind of a long answer.
But
to
I
that.
love it. We're just really learning from you, Joy. But
Yeah.
yun talaga kasi siya. Na, I like what Joy said there, na parang God allows certain things to happen in our lives kasi minsan doon din siya nagkakaroon ng opening sa buhay natin. 'Di ba? Na parang there are times in our life na there's a breaking season, and when we are at our deepest, when we are at our lowest, when we hit rock bottom, that's when we realize that God is that rock at that bottom. And kung hindi natin mararating yon, hindi natin kakailanganin yung tulong niya. Like I remember before, the only, one of those moments that I felt like I was really calling on to God was when everything was so hard for me. Yung parang wala ka ng pag-asa, tas wala ka na ding makuhang hope in this world. And when all hope is gone, you just only have one thing left to hold on to. And then that's when something sparks in your mind na parang, then maybe God is real. Because if
I've tried everything, right?
and everything is still falling
Yeah.
apart, then maybe this is my only choice. Or actually, ito na lang yung only option ko. So, as a desperate person, susubukan mo na yun eh. Kahit hindi yun yung first conviction mo. So, siguro that's how I also wanna share it. Na there are moments in our lives wherein God allows certain things to happen to us because that's His opening to really reach out to us and say, I am here. I'm here. I will help you. I will take you out of this situation. But it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
I know faith works na God is just there waiting for us, but it is actually us who needs to do most of the work to reach
We have
out
to
to Him.
respond. Yeah.
Yes, hindi yung parang wala ka rin gagawin, tas ihihintayin mo na lang si God
Iaasa
na,
mo lahat.
oo, kasi parang one of the things that, entered my mind before was that when things are going well in life, you think it's all because you are good. You mabait ka kasi, magaling ka, masipag ka, hard worker ka, matalino ka, everything is about you. Just like Joy mentioned, it's a me-centered life, diba? A self-centered life. But when things start to fall apart, hindi mo na control a death of a loved one, a loss of a job, anything that's painful. Kung yung anak mo, ito yung mga problema niya. Kunwari, you have a son or a daughter who has addiction and stuff like that na hindi mo rin makontrol. Ito yung mga moments na alam mong biglang iisipin mo, bakit biglang akala ko ba may Diyos? Yan. Akala ko ba may Diyos? Bakit biglang nangyayari tong mga masasamang tong na bagay na to sa buhay ko? But then, as I think about that, I'm like, that's kind of odd because when things are going well in your life, you weren't acknowledging God as a part of that.
Baliktad.
Diba? Na parang you were just thinking it's all about you. But when things starts falling apart,
You blame God.
you blame God. Na, bakit wala kang ginagawa? Na parang, as I seek Him and I know more of Him each day, and I know I still have a long way to go, it's a lifelong thing that we have to do, na parang every time you read the Word or you listen to a message, there's always a new revelation there. And yun yung parang, yung naisip ko doon, na parang oo nga no, tayong mga tao, lagi nating iniisip na pagka maganda, tayo yun. Pag pangit na, kasalanan na ni God yun. And that's just so, for me, unfair. Na parang, we don't acknowledge Him in the good things in our lives, but when things fall apart, all of a sudden, we blame Him. But the thing is, do we have a relationship with Him? Before we start blaming, God, do we actually know Him? Do we know His character?
Is He actually part of our life?
Yes. Yun. So, parang for me, doon nagfo-fall palagi yung isip ko whenever there are trials na it's a part of life. We live in a fallen world.
Yes,
and
that's
no
true.
one is
Immune.
spared of
Yes.
it. Diba? It doesn't mean that you walk with God means, perfect na yung life mo until you die.
Yeah.
You'll never go through any challenges. I believe there is no such thing. Even with those whom you know na talagang very faithful mas sila pa yung mas grabe yung pinagdadaanan in life.
Yeah.
That's why I would hear some people would say na, kaya ayokong maging masyadong tumodo kay Lord eh.
Devoted.
Kasi natatakot ako na baka pag tumodo ako sa kanya,
Challenge.
bigla niya akong,
Yeah.
but for me, it's kind of sad too, to have that kind of thinking.
And I think we have to understand, right? When God allows moments of difficulty in our lives, because I believe He's sovereign, right, in charge of everything, it's never, the end goal is not to break us. It's really, the end goal is to bless us.
Yes.
But sometimes, if you look at that, and I learned this from Jody Santa Maria, when she shared the illustration of the kintsugi, the Japanese art form of where you take broken pieces of
Correct.
ceramic
Yes.
and you put it together with gold. And unless it's very broken, it doesn't have the same kind of value because the gold is really Jesus. So if you allow Jesus to take your life in its brokenness and stitch it back together, put it together with Himself, who is the gold,
Yes.
then it becomes something more
Parang
valuable.
that's
and
the glue.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yes.
He is the glue. So it's never, that's why I encourage people, let's not have that mindset where it's like God just wants me to have a difficult time. He wants to break me. That's not the end goal. There may be breaking seasons, but that's not the goal. It's really ultimately to bless us. So He can use us more, to bring Him glory, to be a blessing, so that we would understand more about where true joy and true happiness and fulfillment lies, so that our relationships will also be repaired and fixed. So there's many things that happen because when we get broken by circumstances, it also causes us to come to a point of humility.
Yes.
And that lets me understand really that we are nothing and we don't have any control of our lives at the end of the day. We can make good choices, but there are circumstances that happen outside of that, even people who can be difficult. But at the end of the day, Lord, do I trust you enough to believe that you have my ultimate good in mind? And I'm going to believe that. I'm going to hold on to your promises. And I'm going to keep holding on until I see it.
Yes.
Because He promises that He will bless.
That's
Whether it's now or in eternity. We
Yes.
can go into that later if there's time. But
Yes.
Eto na naman ako, nagbubuntong hininga na naman ako about all of these. No, because growing up in the faith, syempre parang hindi din naman talaga maiiwasan the times that we are tested. And listening to you both, parang ang nakikita ko is during these testing times also is when we find purpose as well. Doon din natin nalalaman when the trial is over, what do we do then? Who are we then after the trial is overcome? No, with of course God guiding us. No, ito naman yung message kasi always ang gift ni Lord para sa atin, 'di ba? Na I'm gonna teach you this particular lesson by having you go through this particular time, this particular test. And after that, you will become somebody new. You will be renewed in your faith. You will have a new perspective. And now what are you gonna do with it?
Yes.
the
No.
mess becomes a message.
Yes,
Right?
correct. Now,
The
we
test becomes a testimony.
testimony. And then you
Yes.
have people like Camille, Miss Joy, no, that are now may mga platforms na ganito that share that. That's a blessing, but they're just living out their purpose after itong mga na-overcome nila na challenge. So I feel like kailangan lang din talagang tibayan ng kaunti. Yeah.
Tsaka awareness.
Oo.
Like most people were not aware. We just think like when we go through hard stuff, malas lang talaga yung buhay.
Oo.
Malas lang talaga.
For the sake of suffering
Yeah.
lang.
And then you go through life thinking na malas ka talaga, na laging may problemang darating sa'yo kasi parte yun ng buhay mo. But if your mindset is, connected to God or aligned to the will of God, then you'll always know na, Lord, kung pinagdadaanan ko man to ngayon, may dahilan to. And I know you will reveal that to me eventually, and I will wait for that right time to find out why this is happening to me at this point in my life. Because there is a time also after that na, kaya pala nangyari yun.
Yeah. And that's why, and Camille, I know you would know this, but that's why for you and I, the Word of God is important. Right? Because where will you see the good endings of these difficult situations? It's in His Word. And so that's why through my darkest seasons, that's what got me through, is reading the Bible, looking at the promises of God, and seeing that God is a promise-keeping, promise-giving God. And that's what carries us through. And then having community around you.
Right.
Because sometimes you just need somebody to come alongside you and say, hey, you know what? I see what you're going through. And I'm sure it's so difficult. I just want you to know I'm praying for you. Just want you to know I'm here if you need somebody to talk to. That makes such a big difference.
Yes.
So,
And sometimes that's all we need. Din sabi
Yeah.
ko kanina,
That's
di ba, that when
true.
moms just approach to say na, hey, I'm here,
Yeah.
you're okay, it's gonna be okay. And then when you have that one person na magsasabi nung ganon, can I also bring that across to your children. Now, as moms, 'di ba? Paano natin nabibigay yung lesson na ito na kumbaga nata-transcribe for them as well the lessons na nakukuha natin from the testings that we have in our life. No? Now, as parents. Diba? Because isolated yung mga experiences
At
na
saka,
yun.
it's good kasi, GK, and this is a very good topic because our faith, that's ours.
Right.
Diba?
Yeah.
As Joy mentioned earlier, yung faith ng spouses natin, that's between them and God. Ganun din tayo with our faith. Ganun din yung sa mga anak natin.
Yeah.
We cannot control that. We can force it on them. We can model it. Of course, we can inspire them to walk in the ways of the Lord, but
Right.
we cannot, like, hindi kagaya nung dati kasi parang ito ang gawin mo.
Yeah.
Faith is very
Or
different
itong
from that.
pinagdaanan ko, nako, ito yung gawin.
You have to share the same faith as I do. It's not that.
Can't be, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a season when one of my sons, who's a real deep thinker, he was struggling. Sabi niya, if God is good, yung mga homeschoolers tagay, iba yun. If God is good, and if He created hell, and He's all-knowing, why will He knowingly create people na pupunta sa hell if He's loving? So I was like, wait.
Such
Wow.
a valid question,
But
right?
valid question.
It's
Okay,
a valid
okay.
question. It was a
Right.
great question. And I just felt like it was an opportunity to try to also share with him my own journey in the faith. And so I thought that if I answer it well, makakonvince siya. Hindi siya na-convince. Baka pangit din yung sagot ko, hindi ko na-explain well. So I asked him to read all kinds of books also on apologetics, how to know why you believe what you believe. Not just, this is what my parents believe, so I'm going to believe this, or this is what is culturally acceptable, so
Yes.
I will believe this, or this is what my friends think, so I'll believe it. It has to be personal, as Camille said. And so what happened was we tried our best to answer his questions, but at the end of the day, ang sinabi niya, years later kasi, nag-struggle talaga siya. And imagine, he's homeschooled na. He's growing up in a home where his parents love God. And we tried to, really have a relationship with him. So he was sharing, eventually, he was maybe 15, 16, when he started teaching a Bible study to other kids.
Okay.
Na-shock ako kasi one time I overheard him, he was saying, kinakwento niya, yeah, my friend was asking about God, how can we really know God is good and loving? So I said, oh, what did you say? Because that used to be you. What did you say? I was so curious. And then he said, Mom, I really appreciate that you taught me to really love God and know God. That you made sure I knew Jesus. Pero nag-pause siya, tapos umiyak siya. And he's a tough guy. And so I was like, what is he gonna say? And he said, but at the end of the day, what made me believe that God is good, that God is real, is how you and Daddy love me. And I share that because I think sometimes we're always trying to make sure that our kids know God, love God, have the right values. We panic when they have the wrong friends. But at the end of the day, what wins our hearts, our children's hearts over to what is right and good and true, is if they know that we really deeply love them and we have a good relationship with them. Because family is the first place where children should experience heaven. And if they don't experience it at home, they won't want heaven because heaven won't seem real to them.
That's right.
And so that's what's convicted me through the years, that if there's moments when I'm frustrated with my kids, I'm always thinking, Lord, will my response push them away from knowing you? Or will it draw them to you because, like you said, you're modeling it? Or because instead of reacting, I hug them instead, 6 seconds. Right? You hug them instead, you embrace them, you affirm them and say, there's nothing that you can do that will make me love you less. And I'm committed to you. But not just that. In a book that I was reading recently, the author, he's the foremost developmental psychologist in Canada when it comes to, children's development. And he said, all our children want to be attached to us. That is the natural disposition of children.
Yes.
If you think about it, umbilically, they're attached.
Yes.
Right? When we give birth. And then after that, they need us. They need physical attachment in order to survive. So that attachment is very natural. In fact, when you look at a baby, we're like, you're so cute, and you just delight in them. And so naturally, our kids feel like we delight in them, we enjoy them. As they start to get older, that dynamic changes. Parang instead of like just pure delight, parang we get irritated, we start correcting, we start trying to
But
manage.
the attachment is still there.
It's there, but then the dangerous thing is they want to be attached to us, but because they're not receiving the same kind of like relationship that they used to have, they now gravitate towards peers.
Yes.
Because they're starting to find that sense of affirmation and security and acceptance from peer relationships.
Yes.
Once that's there, it's harder to influence them.
Yes.
So he said that the way to win them back is remember those first seasons of parenting when you just purely delighted in your child. And you go back and default to that. For example, hindi pwede na, oh, it's your birthday, let's go do something special. That's too predictable. It has to be like, I'm passing by you in the hall and we're at home and I just come up to you, I put my arm around you and I say, you know what, son, I just love being with you. I'm so blessed to be your mom. Just these spontaneous moments of that heart to heart where they feel like, oh, mom and dad, I'm just so special to them. And it's tricky when you have more than one child because the dynamic can be different. Some children can be more challenging. But if they feel like my parents really want me, they don't just love me, they like me, they enjoy me. We have something deep and special that I'm not willing to risk that
Yes.
and just trade that for any relationship that's out there.
Right.
In fact, it's that attachment and that reattachment that shields them from all the wounding that they will experience.
right.
Because as we know, when children go out there, the relationships they have with peers is different. It's much more fragile. It's not based on unconditional love, right?
Yes.
It's
yes.
very different.
It's also
Because
very
children are
different
still-
from gentle parenting.
Correct.
Kasi there is such a thing that, we call now.
Yes.
But this is more of like really relating to them in such a way that will bring them closer to God.
Yeah.
God is still the main thing in this
Exactly.
relationship.
It's not trying to manipulate them to be good, and it's not about not setting boundaries, because boundaries are important. But as we've heard in these parenting talks, right? Rules without relationships leads to rebellion. So if we really want to influence our kids, even in areas like, let's say, purity,
Yes. Actually,
Or
that's
values.
what I want to ask
Yeah.
you. Because we're raising teenagers.
Right.
Joy has a 21.
21, 18, and then 16, and then 13, 10, and 5.
So
I
there.
got it. Okay.
So I have a 16 and
Yeah.
a 20-year-old boys naman. So, tapping into this, kasi parang as we share earlier, di ba, our faith is very different from our children. So, paano ba natin share yung faith natin sa kanila
Yeah.
in such a way na hindi rin natin ipinipilit?
Correct.
That, like, we're not forcing them that you have to believe this because this is our practice, this is
Yeah.
our faith, di ba? And I remember, as a child, that's the way of life.
Yeah.
Di ba na our faith is
Imposed.
usually passed
Yeah.
down to us.
Correct.
What our family believes, yun din yung paniniwala
Sila
natin.
nagpabinyag sa atin.
Yes,
Ganon.
and it's a cultural thing more than anything. It's a traditional thing that, a generation thing being passed down to the next generation, ganyan. So, but this is very different because may struggle siya eh. Parang, I find myself sometimes just really praying over my kids. As when I pass through where their rooms are, I just lay hands on their doors. Na parang, pag nakikita nga ako ng mga ates namin, ano naman kayang ginagawa nito ni Kasi talaga, I'm just really praying over them. Because I realized that as much as, I can do my part in sharing with them my experiences with God. Kasi that's how VJ and I, that's how we share with with our boys about God or about our faith. Like during meal times, we share with them how God worked in our lives this week, and then we would share with them our breakthroughs. Like we were praying for something, and then this happened, and then this is how it came about, and we just knew it was God who's working there. Kasi parang imposible siya kung paano siya nangyari. So and those moments will get them thinking na. Oo nga, no? So in every journey that we have, when we built our home from scratch and it was all God who provided for that, we would share all those with them and they would realize na, anak, example for Nathan, every time he would ask me, simple lang yung isasagot ko sa kanya. Sabi ko, anak, do you remember where we were 10 years ago? You were probably about 6 years old and it was just you and me. And how God worked in our lives. He gave us VJ, he gave you a brother. And now, we used to live in my parents' house. And then we moved to this house and now God has blessed us with our own house. This is all God. So parang by every moment or in every milestone that happens in our lives, those are also the moments that I share with them na this is how God has been working in our lives. This is how He has been taking good care of us kasi hindi namin to kaya. This house that we have, it's impossible if it was just me and your dad to build this. God is a big part of this. And for them to really know that and to really understand that. So for us, that's how we do it. And just pray for them. So
Yeah.
as we touch this, I want to ask Joy, because lately this is the thing that I have been sharing in my social media. So about 2 weeks ago, Nathan and I attended a purity ball that was organized by their school, because Nathan goes to Life Academy. It's also from our church, CCF. So faith-based talaga yung school, even the teachings and of course the values being taught to them. And then the parents actually organized a purity ball. It was actually, I don't know, last year there was none. So parang meron ngayon. So we were kind of excited. And I asked Nathan, kasi I didn't know how he feels about this, di ba? And syempre mother, tas son. So medyo topic na ayaw naming pag-usapan. He would go to his dad for these things, but not to me. But during this time, his dad was in the States, so kami lang talaga. So I asked him, like, anak, are we going to the purity ball? Yeah, we are. So how's, are your classmates going? Ganyan. They are. So they're actually looking forward to it. So I asked him, do you understand what this purity ball
What it means.
Diba? Yung purpose nitong event na to. Yeah, very vague naman yung sagot na. Yung parang, I know, trying to like, let's not talk about this, mom. Parang ganon. But I just want to make sure that he understood what we are actually getting ourselves into,
Yeah.
and this promise that we're making with God. So as I share that, syempre when I shared it on social media,
Yeah.
it was something that probably I was also, of course, una, syempre it's such a blessing to know that a lot of people were actually a bit surprised and learning na, oh, there is actually such a thing that
As a
exists.
purity ball.
Diba? Second was that they think it's only for teenage girls. That purity is only for women. Na parang, bakit pati lalaki? Eh, wala namang mawawala sa lalaki. Diba? So those are the things that I have been getting. And of course, for the younger generation, probably, they felt that it was too much. Even na parang for me, to make pakialam daw the purity of my son. Na parang, why do I have to meddle with that? Or bakit pati yun, pinakikialaman ko pa? I mean, some are quite hurtful and nasty comments, but I didn't get to read them because when, you know, the moment I saw where this was heading, I'm like, I don't need those information. I already know where it's heading. So, okay na sa akin yon. But siguro, I also want to use this platform to be able to share what our conviction is as, or what our convictions are as a family and what we believe in. And, you know, na sa panahon kasi ngayon, why is purity something that we need to save in order to honor God?
Yeah, and I would just say that a lot of times we think it's just for maybe the young people or those who aren't married, but purity is a lifestyle we're all supposed to have. And that's why when the purity ball happens, it's really, let's commit as a family to be pure. And what does it mean to be pure, really? Because what does that mean, right? And it's really, if there's a verse in the Bible, Philippians 4, verse 8, whatever is true, whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is noteworthy, we think about those things. We focus on those things. And there are so many blessings to purity. There's even a Bible verse that says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And there's another verse in Timothy that says, if you run away from sexual immorality, you will be a useful vessel in the house of God, you know? And so I share these things because I think a lot of times we get sucked into this vortex of the current society, which glorifies sex and sexuality and makes it seem like it's okay to experiment with sex, with sexual relationships, all kinds of sexual relationships, and that's just the norm. But if we were really to study what happens to people who have been promiscuous and have not protected purity, there's so much pain, even disease down the road, so much heartache. And so when we think about purity, it's not supposed to be that, why is God prohibiting me from enjoying something pleasurable? It is for sure pleasurable, like sex is pleasurable, right? But God is protecting us. He wants us to adhere to a standard of purity because He wants us to experience it in the best context.
Right.
And that's what we do when we talk to our kids. And I don't think it's ever too young to introduce the topic of purity to your kids. And the way we talk about it is sometimes, let's say you're watching a movie and there's somebody kissing on screen.
Yes.
Right. Not just hugging, kissing for more than 6 seconds. And so we process it. We say, you know what? See that their kids, so that we ask our kids to close our eyes, but we'll say, you know what? I know you guys saw that. And ideally, God's design is that they should be doing that in marriage, not outside of marriage, because that's how God designed it. So every time we talk about purity, it's always like, you can look forward to that in marriage, because I don't think we should ever say sex is bad. I don't think we should ever say that, we shouldn't talk about these things kasi bawal yan.
Or tatakutin mo sila.
Oh, you should not scare
Yeah,
them
yeah.
into wanting to protect their purity. It's more like, hey, there's so much stuff to look forward to in the right context, and God's design is so beautiful. Who designed sex? But it was God.
Yes.
And it's always the evil one who's trying to distort the context
Yes.
so that we experience something substandard of what the original design was.
Yes.
He's always trying to find a replacement for the actual beautiful thing. And so when we have to frame it that way, because if we're coming across like, stay pure, you should stay pure, but we never give them the context to understand why purity is valuable,
Yes.
why we should protect it, why God's also trying to protect us from heartache, then it's like we're not convincing enough to our children. And they have to see that as parents, we're also safeguarding our purity. So the purity ball, as you shared, right, was also us as parents, we're being mindful of what we watch, what we
Yes.
listen to, because purity starts there. It's not like, but if there's a cliff, kunyari, the cliff means you fall into sexual sin outside of marriage. You're going to have sex with somebody who's not your spouse. You're not going to say, how close can I go
Before I fall.
before I fall? What you want to say is, because it's so precious and it's so important,
That you don't
how
fall.
do I set the line far back as possible so that I safeguard myself? And then I really experience the full benefits of what God has for me. And this is for men, for women, for children, for adults, for everyone.
Yes.
It's, if God says, I want you
Iba-iba
to
lang
say
ng
this-
season.
Iba
Like,
lang
syempre, if
season.
you're young,
Yeah.
then this is the kind of purity that you're supposed to protect
Yun
for
ang
yourself.
context.
Kasi
Yeah.
bata ka pa. But as you grow and you become an adult
Yeah.
and you enter into a marriage, then it's a different kind of
Is it
purity.
like for you and I, why do we not watch pornography as a married couple? Like my husband and I, we've gotten this question: can I watch pornography as a married couple with my husband so that it helps us with our sex life? But why do you want to invite that into your marriage
bed.
right? When, let's face it, for guys, it's going to be very hard for them not to think about all those things while they're having sex with you. And so purity, you practice it, that's true, in different ways as you go through the seasons, but it's something that we should all think of as valuable, as important, as beautiful, because God wants us to enjoy his design. And so even for boys, when they say, wala naman mawawala dyan, that's not true.
That's not true.
Because if boys experience pornography or sex or outside the context of marriage, they bring all that baggage into the marriage. They're not going to have a maximized sex life in marriage, because it's like, the stuff I'm thinking about while I'm having sex with my wife is all the stuff I've
Yes,
experienced
yes.
before.
At kung hindi mo na-experience yun ngayon, then you feel that that marriage is lacking.
Yeah, and you can't enjoy it.
And then you're gonna look for it elsewhere kasi na-experience mo na.
Yes. So all that discovery is supposed to happen in the context of marriage, and it's supposed to also hold the marriage together in a very special way. But it's like if you take tape and you attach it here, you attach it there, you attach it here.
Wala nang pangdikit.
Oh yeah,
Yung adhesive.
nawawala yung
Yung stickiness niya.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
It won't be effective anymore
yes,
for
but if you
use.
can offer that as a gift to your future spouse, and let me tell you, you're gonna feel like, oh, but everyone else is doing it. Maybe I'm gonna be frowned upon or made fun of, and it's one of the most beautiful. My husband was a virgin when he's so guapo, but he was a virgin when he married me. I wasn't, because of my sexual experiences, because of what happened to me, but I was so blessed that I didn't ever feel like I had to compare myself to anybody, because he really tried his best to protect himself as a man, and it's rare in this day and age. But as a wife, I feel so secure in my sexual relationship with my husband, because I know he honored me even before he knew me. In other words, he prepared his heart to be a certain kind of husband and to honor purity even before he ever met me. And it's such a beautiful gift.
I just want to share because Edric actually shared that message sa church namin. Na, he shared there that he used to be addicted to pornography
before-
when he was young. And then when he learned about what happened to Joy when he was 15, he had this realization that it was because of these things that, enter the minds of men.
Right.
That there were actually men who became so wicked to a point that they can actually rape a
You
girl.
should get desensitized, right?
Yeah.
And parang how he
I think this is a
explained it
whole
as I
nother
remember
topic.
it. Yeah, as I remember it is because, when we let these unpure thoughts into our mind, it starts to become a part of us.
Yeah.
And then we don't
Corrupts us.
realize na yun na pala tayo. And then we now start to inflict pain towards other people
We acted out.
just because of the things that we allow, to enter into our mind. So yun lang, naalala ko lang bigla yun na, these things that, it's a conviction that we have, and it's something that I would definitely love to share. To be honest, medyo napakapit ako ng konti as I, receive screenshots of comments. But, at the end of the day, I realized I have an audience of one. And that's God. And, this message, ang daming, natutuwa ako na ang daming nagtatanong at nagtataka at actually very curious about these things. And I realized that, maybe they are also seeking and searching because no one's really speaking about these things in our world. Diba? Nasanay na tayo na ang culture, ito yung dinidictate niya. So lahat tayo, sumasabay lang tayo sa kung ano yon. So it's a blessing, of course, and at the same time, medyo nakaka-nervous din because medyo savage din the comments, very nasty, but it's a part of, our social media world right now. And that's why we continue to share what we stand for, 'di ba? Because yun talaga yun. And whether pare-pareho iba-iba naman tayo ng mga paniniwala sa buhay, but for me, I just hope and pray that whatever it is that I have been receiving from God and how he has been blessing our family, I just want to pay it forward and be able to share the same things to others. So, guys, sobrang dami gustong pag-usapan.
Ang dami pa.
15 minutes overtime.
Yeah,
So
but that's
definitely we need the part 2 for this, Joy. Kasi parang sobrang bitin, but we learned so much from you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insights, your experiences. Of course, with how you have been living a life that is God-centered, that, somehow dwindled down to your marriage and to your children. You have a Facebook page.
Yes.
You have Mondays.
Yeah. So if you want to follow me, I have Teach with Joy on Facebook. It's a page, and then Joy T Mendoza on Instagram. But I just want to say, Camille, can I say something before? I didn't really want to talk about that part, but I wanted to just say, I don't want you guys to ever feel if you've made certain choices and you've made mistakes in the area of purity or parenting or marriage, that this conversation would make you feel like, paano na ako? I think that's the last thing we want.
Yes.
I think GK, Camille, myself, we want you to come away from this like strongly encouraged and motivated to see things from a different perspective and to realize, hey, all of us have made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. We continue to make mistakes. And I read this thing where it says, when you make a mistake, you just get back up again. Because there's victory in just getting back up again. And you start over. And I love how the Bible says God's mercies are new every morning. So if you never come to a point where you've really understood how much God loves you and his good plan for your life, I pray that today you'd really start to consider, Lord, let me know you. Can you make yourself real to me? Because I'm struggling. And I also have this sin that I'm clinging on to and I can't get rid of it. But I can promise you this. If you really choose to sincerely follow God and ask him to show up in your life, he will. He loves to do that. And we are just recipients of grace. And if there's any good you've seen in our own lives, it's just grace. And you can be renewed also in your journey. So I hope that you'll be encouraged, not feel like you were judged, not feel like you were boxed in by the thing or boxed out by the things that we said, because we just want to really encourage you guys in your journey. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Joy.
And
That's
if
really
there's
what
anything na nakukuha ko from all of these stories, all of these sharing is that at the end of all of it, steadfast po at totoo ang promise ni Lord para sa atin.
Amen.
Hindi mababago, nag-aantay lang po siya sa atin palagi.
Yes. I love that. As you say that, GK, I just realized, kasi yun talaga yun. We are all imperfect. And still God's love is just unconditional. It's like, I imagine him, telling me when there are times na sobra din akong nagsastruggle, na alam kong nagkakamali ako. Na, I know you will sin. You have sinned in the past. You continue to sin now. And you will continue to sin in the future. And still, I choose you.
Yeah.
Diba? It's that's how magnificent his love is for us. He knows all the sins we will commit in the future, and still he chooses us. So isn't that more than enough for him for us to really know that he is really an amazing God who keeps his promises? Ako, ang sarap-sarap ng usapan na to.
Joy, ang dami nagre-request ng part 2.
Talaga ba?
Yung sa ating comment section, nako, abang-abang sa Real
Yes,
Camille.
thank you so much, Joy, for being here.
too.
We learned so much. At syempre, sa lahat ng sa inyo na nanood ngayon sa ating live, thank you so much to all our viewers who tuned in. Thanks also, GK, for the fun challenges that we
thank
did.
you.
And for all the wise stuff that you shared with us too. Thank you, GK. I hope you all learned a lot today at sana na-inspire din kayo to grow and strengthen your faith and relationship with God from this. This was such a special episode talaga for me. Kaya naman, I'm looking forward to our part 2 kaya din overtime. So if you like what you've watched today, join us again next week on May 16 here on my social media accounts at 11 a.m. when it's time to be real with Camille. Bye everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day.